It's Wednesday. Let's chat. I'm Kanan Chandran, the publisher of stormasia.com. And this is a weekly web chat series that we've started since COVID-19. It's to get you up to speed on what's going on out there, to bring some panelists together to share on topics that we think you might find of interest. We are always happy to hear your thoughts and questions, so please do feel free to ask questions in the Q&A section. There's a chat box out there. By all means, pop your questions there and we'll try and get to them through this discussion. It's 45 minutes. And the highlights of this session will be trimmed to 15 minutes and on the stormasia.com site. So today, we're looking at how COVID has changed things on the job front in terms of employment, in terms of what you're doing, how businesses are reacting, and how should we approach all this, this significant impact of the pandemic on our lives. We have three business owners in different industries to talk about the tools of the trade, selling, and leadership. So what are the key points that they feel you should bear in mind as you journey through this COVID adventure and hopefully come out of it? It might be a change situation, so what should you bear in mind? So we've got William Gilchrist, who's the founder of Consig. William has worked in various industries from education to media, marketing, to sales, and in organizations around the world like Google, TradeGecko, and MyDoc. His 15 years of experience in global technology sales throughout North America, Europe, Middle East, and Asia Pacific prepared him for the launch of his own company, Consig, which runs an end-to-end sales operation for enterprises and SMEs globally. Welcome, William.
Thank you for having me.
And we have Dom Melly, who's the principal of People at Their Best. Dom has held senior human resources and industrial relations positions within the public and corporate sectors. Over the past 15 years, Dom has established himself as a trusted advisor and innovative consultant, helping leaders and organizations to drive high performance outcomes. For the past 10 years, Dom has run People at Their Best, a boutique management consulting business and a thought leader in organizational culture, leadership, engagement, and customer experience. Dom is based in Sydney. Welcome, Dom.
Welcome.
And we have Marcus Ho, Managing Director of Brew Interactive. Marcus is the founder of Asia's fastest growing and award-winning digital marketing agency, Brew Interactive. Over the last 12 years, Marcus, alongside with his team, has worked with numerous multinational brands such as Hitachi, Unilever, and Shell to grow their content marketing efforts. Marcus is also the author of the national bestseller, Social Payoff. Welcome, Marcus. Welcome, gentlemen, to today's session. And right off the bat, I'd like to ask you, how has COVID changed your businesses? Maybe we'll start with William.
Well, actually for us, considering that we are a end-to-end kind of outbound sales and service business, and we operate in so many different regions, I'm kind of guilty, actually, because it actually hasn't affected our business negatively. It's actually affected our business positively. But I think it's a good thing for us to know that we do have a purpose and that we can help in this time. So for us, we've been overworked. We've been working around the clock. We've gathered more clients than we expected, and there's a clear need for us in this particular time. And that's been, on one end, like I said, we're a little guilty about it, but on another end, you know, we know that we're helping, and that allows us to sleep at night a little bit more.
Cool. I'm 100% the same with William as well. Me being in not the sales and service business, but the marketing side of the world here. You know, the number of inquiries ever since the start of this lockdown here in Singapore has been fairly beneficial for our company. But just like William, I'm feeling you, man. It's
we're cousins. You're marketing, I'm sales. We're kind of related.
Exactly. Yes. So it also helps you to sleep at night knowing that you know, we're helping other companies to do good. So yeah, that's something that, you know, I'm fairly contented, and I count my blessings every day for it.
Cool. And Dom, how's it been for you?
Yeah, some of it, some is similar to you two gentlemen. For us, I think it's been about making sure and getting really clear about what our purpose and mission is. So, and that hasn't changed, but rededicated to what our purpose is, why we're in business. So after defining that and making sure that's absolutely crystal clear to everyone in the business, everything else has changed. So our mission or our purpose, that's remained the same, and we've realigned ourselves to it. But how we actually deliver on that purpose and how we serve our customers, I have to say everything's changed. From the way we invoice them to the way we charge them, the way we deliver products and services and programs to them, that's all had to change. And in many ways for us, that's become our real value proposition, because we've had to be incredibly nimble, and because of our size and because of the way we operate, and because we understand and spend such a long time understanding the needs of our customers, then we're able to adapt to what they need and still be able to deliver our services, but in a totally different way. So as I say, whether that's how we invoice people or how we actually deliver the programs and using technology to do so, that's all changed for us. So purposes remain the same and anchored to that. That directs everything we do. And how we deliver on that purpose has all had to adjust over the last 7 months in really quite profound ways.
So when people ask, well, the change is being affected by yourself, right? You are anticipating what your customer wants, or is your customer demanding that you respond in a different way?
Yeah, both, Cannon. I think the most important thing now is to just be so attentive. I mean, we always were, but that's been amplified now. So that idea of being conscious and understanding the needs of, and the customers' needs have changed, right? So their needs and resources are different. So the time that we spend listening now is been amplified, and I think understanding what they need and what's possible has meant that we have to be just connected to them far closer than we ever have before. From my point of view, is I think the businesses that have navigated COVID-19 more effectively are the ones that had strong relationships beforehand. And I think the ones that have tried to build the relationships now in this period have been found really wanting. So for us, it's about strengthening and doing everything we can to continue to build those strong relationships, understand their needs, and find ways that we can still serve them.
Okay. William and Marcus, for you,
Yeah.
you both say things have been on the up and up.
Yeah.
Has this been a trend, or is it because of COVID?
Well, a lot of it, I mean, it's spiked significantly since COVID. I've been doing a lot of media, writing a lot of op-eds and articles talking about the importance of companies removing the fluff around their style of doing business. And, you know, I really hate to be right here, but I have to say, welcome to the jungle. Are you a zoo animal or are you a wild animal? And what this has done is made everybody a wild animal overnight. So have you been taking your time to understand how to hunt, how to survive, how to exist, right? So many people, so many managers have sat there without much experience, not really knowing what they're doing, but been able to sit in these roles, getting large salaries, managing teams that without any experience at all. They've been able to be very safe in these companies for decades, right? For years. People get promoted based on being tenured, right? You have individuals just relying on inbound opportunities and referral only. All that's gone. Right now, I hate to be biased and sound like the typical sales guy here because I own a sales organization, but now outbound sales and real conversations matter. A buzzword's not going to help you now, you know. And I know we're on a podcast, but a podcast is not going to help you, right? These things are not going to necessarily create the answer, right? What's going to create the answer is, are you actually good at what you do? Do you actually have a real value proposition to give to the world? And a good idea is not going to work anymore for the VCs. So welcome to the jungle. Now we have to actually be real. It's a reset button. That's the silver lining that I see.
Okay,
yeah, that's true. And to a certain extent, I agree. And with William, there are certain things that I would also disagree with. The part that I agree would be, you know, like for us being in our line of work, so we're in the digital marketing line of work, we eat our own dog food, right? So whatever that we do for our clients in the form of inbound marketing, we've done it for ourselves, and we've been doing it consistently, at least in the last 5-6 years. We produce a lot of articles ourselves, and we make sure that after producing the articles, we also, drive back links so that it ranks better on SEO. And we build an audience for ourselves over the years. Like today, if you go to our blog, we've got a monthly traffic size of about 20,000 unique visitors. It's not high, but it's not low either in my mind. And we've got a database of close to about 8,000 subscribers. Most of them are the people that we're really trying to target. So we've been doing it consistently for years, and I don't know if we have a big enough brand name, because after all, we're still fairly boutique. But I would say, we're just continuously tapping into this gold mine that we're building up over the years. So to William's point, there are certain things that I would agree with, because COVID has helped to awaken a lot of individuals, both business owners and even professionals, that everything is digital now. If you've forgotten about doing any kind of like marketing in the sense of digital, then now's the perfect time to think about it. And this was the main reason why there was a huge surge in our inquiries from during the month of the April, May, June period, especially those months. So yeah, I mean, it's very important to make sure that, at least in my point of view, yes, doing outbound, if you're good at it, perfect. We're terrible at outbound sales, but we rely on all the inbound inquiries that come through us, and COVID has helped to bring in more people thanks to that. Yeah.
Well, actually, I was referring to, so what you're describing is still components of an outbound strategy, because you actually have a marketing plan. You actually have performance marketing data, numbers. What I'm referring by inbound marketing that people can't rely on, that is, okay, well, we have a company, therefore it sells itself.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I
and
think
I know
that
you
was
guys
already
are that,
on
right?
that was already on the way out some time back, right? Having a company and just having presence, it means the money is going to roll in and the business is going to roll in. That's long gone.
But I'm sure from a value proposition, Mark, is when you're trying to sell, most people say, if somebody was going to give you some kind of objection, they would say, oh no, actually we're getting enough traffic right now, right, without doing anything at all. And you're like,
yeah, then why did you even want to talk to me in the first place?
Right. So
Yeah.
so if you get that response, that's exactly what I'm referring to. The people who say that, who don't even think, they think that they could just exist and that it's such a cool product that the world's magically going to respond to it.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. This is about attitude to some extent, right? So this episode, it's part of our Jobs 20XX Work in Progress series, which is with our partner OUE. Here we're looking at issues around jobs and employment and attitude. So what you've just raised, I think, is quite important for people out there who are looking for work and trying to understand what they're not doing right or what they should do, try and get a better sense of the handle on the reins. So would you have any sort of advice for people who are trying to get out there, especially given all the changes that will reshape things after COVID? What should they do? What should they bear in mind? What are the key things that they should hang on to and develop for themselves? William?
Oh, okay. Great. One of the things that I was living in Shanghai about 14 years ago. I lived in China for 5 years, and I was fortunate enough to be good friends with someone whose father was the chairman of Jones Lang LaSalle, rest in peace, Mr. Stuart Scott. And we were at a bar, Sky Bar. And I asked him the exact same question when I was trying to get into the game of work and what I should do. And the advice he gave me at that particular time, I thought was phenomenal. He said, be good at something. It doesn't matter what it is, but know everything about it. If you are the master of dill pickles and you know everything about dill pickles, you know how dill pickles are processed, you know where to get pickles, you know the soil, you know everything about dill pickles, you will be successful in some capacity as it relates to dill pickles. If you are into marketing, be really into marketing. Make it something you really want to do. If you're into sales, be good into sales. Go to an actual sales school, get a methodology, understand it, get experience, start low. Don't try to be a manager immediately. Be a master at that space. So I think that there is not a cheat sheet. It's really focusing on knowing what you want to do and being not just good, but focused on really marrying your life to that. I am a salesperson. For the rest of my life, that's what I'm going to do. Regardless of what industry I'm in, I'm a salesman. And that's what I'll do. And that's what I've dedicated my life to. So the same way doctors, lawyers, or whoever, I think people need to really subscribe to something, not rely on buzzwords, not really think about the money they may get or the salary they may get from it. Because if you're not good at something, it's not going to have longevity anyway. So as long as you're focusing on being good at something, I think that whatever you're into will work.
I think everybody is a salesperson, right? You need to sell yourself, you need to sell your services, you need to sell something about yourself to somebody. You want to get married, you got to sell yourself and say, oh, I'm marriageable, would you consider it?
Everybody's a doctor too when they go to the Guardian or the pharmacy. Doesn't make them a doctor. This is tactical stuff.
The sales that you're talking about is actual physical sales. But I think in terms of your attitude and disposition, you have to consider that you are putting yourself out there and you need to market yourself and sell yourself so that people see a value proposition in you as who you are, trying to do whatever it is you're trying to do.
And
that's, I think, universal, right? Yep, Don?
If I can pick up on something William said, it's really important for anyone that's thinking about how do I, be of value going forward. And there's something about what you were saying, William, about discipline, doing the work, continuing to be curious and learning as much as you can. What we absolutely know, Cannon, is that passion is developed far more than it's discovered. Learning doesn't happen by osmosis or by accident. You actually have to throw yourself into something. And the more that you do that, the more interested you become in it, the more your performance goes up. As your performance goes up in that area, the more you want to learn about it. So there's this reciprocal relationship between passion or motivation, learning and performance. And it's a virtuous cycle. So it's not going to happen by osmosis. You actually have to do the work. You have to be motivated. And from that motivation, you learn more. As you learn more, your performance goes up. And that's the sort of virtuous cycle. And there's no shortcuts to that. So I think that idea of staying really connected, really curious, being courageous to get feedback on your own performance and continuously learn. You just can't stand still. And there's no free rides or cheat sheets, as you were saying, William, anymore. You really have to do the work. And perseverance is one of the key characteristics of successful people right now. They have to actually endure and put in that effort.
Absolutely. I mean, I think people need to ask themselves, would they do what they're doing right now for free?
Yeah, it's a very good question.
That's the question.
Point. Yeah.
But I think too many people are standing around hoping that, they'll be struck with some insight that they want to be a doctor or they want to be a marketer. It doesn't work that way. You develop a passion for something, and the better you get at it, the more you want to learn, the more you learn about it, the more your performance goes up. And there's just, that's the way the human brain works is that we actually learn best when we're stretching ourselves, when we're challenging ourselves, when we're increasing our capacity or our capability. That's when we assimilate new information most easily. So you really have to push yourself, and if it's too easy, or if you expect it to be too easy, you actually just don't learn that well.
And I think another point that I want to impart to any potential job seekers is, COVID or non-COVID, I think one has to always be able to stay nimble, not only as a business, but more importantly as an individual as well. You could be doing something all your life, like maybe you could be an accountant all your life, and you could be working for the same company as an accountant your whole life, and now you could have been let go and now you're forced to look for something new. Yeah, you can still be an accountant, but now you have to be nimble in the form of, okay, so how do you take your skills and knowledge and experience from being an accountant into adding value into other potential employers or even clients. So it could be maybe something as simple as just learning all the technicalities of your biggest accounting software there, right? Like here at Brew, we use QuickBooks. There's QuickBooks, there's Xero, there's tons of other accounting software out there. And maybe because you've worked 35 years at the same old company, you've not used any of this software before, but now you're an individual, you're selling yourself, you're selling your name, you need to be able to be nimble and say, all right, you know what, I'm going to spend a few days, weeks, just learning about these new software and tools. And everybody does that as well. Like any successful person is always nimble. So if the question is, what kind of advice I would give, I would say being nimble is one of the key traits that one needs to have, and more so in such times as well.
Marcus, I totally agree with that, because people don't see their skill sets and what they're actually, that's actually what I meant by, are you good at something? It's not a job. Yeah. I'm ex-Google, right? That does not mean that was my life, was to be in Google. That's not it at all. Having sales components or having accounting skills, how do you apply that to something that I totally agree with what you're saying, because I think that's part of the being good. Whatever job you have or whatever profession that you're in, are you in it to focus on actually learning and getting skill sets and being really good at it? I think that always gets missed. People want to hold a title, but are you really trying to be good at what you're doing? Do you really get it? And if you really get it, then you can apply it to anything.
Hey, Cannon, to pick up on what Marcus was saying, I mean, I must say this once a day to someone. You just have to think back to Charles Darwin. It's not the strongest, it's not the smartest, it's not the biggest that flourish, but it's those that are most adaptable, the ones that are able to change to meet the challenges in the environment around them. And there's plenty of studies out there that show that the core characteristic which is most closely correlated with success for a business is adaptability. Forget about all the other things. It's the ones that are able to move away from threats or move away and capture those new opportunities. They're the ones, by every metric, do the best. And I think what's really important there, though, is that I think in an accelerated change environment where just about everything can be copied, what we do know, though, is that the organizations, and William, you said it won't be the ones that know the most, it'll be the ones that can learn the quickest. So that's about staying connected to your customer or to your market, being really curious, understanding what their needs are, and then being agile or nimble enough to adapt to those. In this accelerated world, it doesn't matter how much you know, because that's being automated and knowledge is being decayed so quickly. It's who can learn the quickest and then use those insights as an input into their operations. And I think they're the ones that will be successful in future.
So how does a newcomer to the job scene cope with all of that? Because they're not coming with that much knowledge. They may have the right attitude, but how do they, what do you look for in potential hires?
They need to not be focused on winning right away. They need to be focused on losing and learning a lot. If they're thinking, for instance, every new hire here, if they win and they do really well in their first quarter, we say, uh-oh, that's a problem. Because now they think that that's reality. It's not about the quarters that you win, it's the quarters that you lose and how you bounce back from it, right? And that's with anything. Everybody can get a great job, a great opportunity as a newcomer. You got a nice little salary. Great, awesome. What if somebody took it away? As COVID showed us, everything can be taken away. So what if it was taken away to you tonight? What are you going to do? Have you learned anything? Or was it just a job? So really, the focus for a newcomer needs to be on just absorbing, being a sponge. I mean, that's literally what Dom is saying. I think that's the only way there will be any progression for their abilities.
Okay. All of you are business owners. Would you recommend this route for people?
I should have been a fireman. Don't do it.
On the flip side,
I love it.
I would also look. I mean, I'll look at those traits as well. You know, the willingness to learn, the grit, the grittiness that individual has. I don't really look for skills such as or attitudes such as, you know, to have that person to be entrepreneurial. Those things aren't really that important to me. It's more of that grit in that individual, because, you know, in life and everything else, there will come to, you know, people will fail, and it's about how you respond to it, just like how William has said. And far too often in the context of Singapore, I have seen with a lot of young people, or younger people, I might say, when push comes to shove and, you know, they have a difficult meeting that they have to attend, or they have a difficult client they need to meet, it has happened more than enough times for me to observe that, you know, these people, they would just take a medical certificate, they'll take a medical leave on that day, and for them it's easy, right? You could justify by saying, oh, I'm too stressed, like I've got migraine here, I can't really take that client call or that client meeting, just because, you know it's big. You could know it's important, but you just, you know, try to back down or back away from it. And I think signs like these show that, you know, as an individual, you don't really have what it takes to bounce back from failures. And because also we're in Singapore, where employment rate is or rather unemployment rate is high and unemployment rate is low, obviously, it's also very easy if one wants to jump ship. You can easily just make the shift easily to another company where, from your perception, you know, you think you're gonna have an easier life from there. So to me, it's one of the key things that I look out is, you know, in the face of failure, how do you really bounce back? And I try to get this kind of information in the CV. Oftentimes it's not there. So if it's not there, then, you know, what we do in our hiring structure is we create a hiring environment where we try to make it difficult for new hires, and you know, simple things such as, you know, we might even show up on a call, or sorry, not that, but we do something similar things to that, to really find out how individuals like this truly bounce back. And that to me is a key thing of figuring out whether that individual has that perseverance of facing failure.
So anybody applying to you should put in all their failures, is it? And
yeah, not all, but the key ones.
Significant ones.
Yeah, the significant ones. And personally, for me as an individual, I relate better with somebody else who would have told me about stories of that you don't normally share. And these are usually the stories of failure. It can be anything. It could be, you know, perhaps like you got fired at your job before, or you've done, like, you realize you're in the wrong career path. It could also be maybe a divorce story, who knows, right? But I want to know about these side of you, and how you bounce back. And that to me shows authenticity, it shows humility, it shows perseverance.
I think that's really important, Marcus, because look, let's face it, and I read a study recently from Oxford Uni about how just about every worker that relies on their subject matter expertise, that's been automated at such an alarming rate. So I keep advising people to build capability in those areas that can't be automated or can't be outsourced. And what you're talking about there, Marcus, is resilience, and people can learn resilience. And I think organizations need to be cultivating resilience. And then there's other things like collaboration skills, your communication skills, all those things that at the moment, technology can't replicate. You know, technology can't demonstrate empathy, and it can't make someone feel valued. And they're the skills that you can develop regardless of what's happening in the market. In Australia, there's lots of emphasis being given to what we call the STEM areas. So that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But even those are subject to being automation. But those human skills, what people wrongly call soft skills, they're the things that can't be automated. How you make someone feel, how you create an experience that helps people make sense of the world, how you build relationships, how you ask questions, and your listening skills. those things are fundamental because they're, at the end of the day, they're how people interact and it's how you create value for that other person. So I think focusing on those things that can't be automated and can't be outsourced and getting really good at those creative problem solving skills, for example, they'll be the key, I think, going forward.
The question for you guys is, okay, we know the younger generation are probably a bit more adaptable at this. How about those mid-career and those who are older, who may have been displaced because of COVID and now trying to come in? How would they get a foothold into your businesses, for instance, or to be part of your teams?
For me, the biggest thing is your reputation. Over the last few months, we made at least about 5 hires in the last, I would say, 6 months or so. And you know, when I say your reputation, I don't only mean your reputation in the industry, because in again my line of work, we try to find like the best in class individuals who are really good at what they're doing, and we'll try to find a way to convince them to join us in our journey of you know, doing what we do best. So making sure that you've got a good reputation, that's important. But even if you don't have a reputation of doing something really, really good, then, you know, there were at least, if I were to just recount, probably about 8 or 9 occasions that I was trying to make some hires, but, you know, upon Googling these people on Google, there were information that I got from these people that I shouldn't have access to, or I shouldn't see. Things like their photos, or maybe they may have fined like just a couple $1,000s for doing something. And I feel it's really, really important that in today's context, in today's workforce, that, you know, you want to clean your reputation up online. And I was doing some research as before we had this panel discussion, and one of the stats that I found online is that about 78% of individuals believe that it's very important to look up either an individual or a business before deciding whether or not they want to do business, or they want to hire that particular individual. 78%, that's almost like 8 out of every 10 employees that will be Googling your name before they make the final step of maybe making you an offer. And I did that for me as well. Like, you know, we were down to 2-3 candidates, and then, you know, I just Googled their names just to see what they were up to. Could have landed on their Facebook profile, and probably saw a site that I don't really felt like I needed to see, or read something about them that I really felt I didn't really need to know about. And that affected our hiring decision. So, you know, I would say if you're a little bit older, first thing is to make sure you Google your name, and make sure that, you know, whatever that you see over there is exactly, you know, what you want people to see. Because people will Google your name, which I'm sure, you know, some of you who's attending this webinar now, you're probably Googling my name or William's name or Dom's name on the internet, just to find out, you know, what's our background, professional and maybe personally as well. So yeah, I think, you know, if I were to give any tip amongst, you know, the many other things that one might say, I would say just make sure that your reputation is what you want people to know about you.
Okay.
Yeah. So to apply a concept, and Marcus, that's a really good point. I think that reputation is more important than CV. CVs always look good, right? And the references that you give are always going to be good. But, you know, your reputation and the good work that you've done before will always carry on. To apply in config, if I relied on typical profiles to hire amazing salespeople, I wouldn't have a business. I've had people who are school teachers, single moms who are just living at home, who never sold before. We have more of a mantra that we don't hire salespeople, we build them. So the worst thing in the world that we get is some vice president of some company trying to come in who's been VP of sales somewhere, but really he or she has just been spending the last 20 years doing the same thing over and over again and doesn't understand the new way of selling, or maybe how to deal with COVID, for instance, right? So we usually don't go for those type of profiles. So I think that going back to the first point about being agile, if you are a mid-market person, you need to remove ego, remove some of the old baggage, the archaic systems that are there, and be open to new concepts. So applying here, you're going to have to think you're going to be challenged, and it's a flat system here. Everybody has to sell, and everybody's got a good track record and big companies on their resume and all that stuff. Nobody cares in Consig. It's all about what can you deliver and are you actually good.
Yep.
And Dom?
I agree with William and Marcus 100%. I'd add a few other things to it. In looking at what you can do, I think there are some certain areas. I mean, we know that the biggest contributor to your success, particularly as you say, those mid-level employees, is your emotional intelligence. And the great thing about emotional intelligence, and it explains about 40% of your success is attributed to your EI, and that's twice as much as your IQ. So the great thing is that you can develop it. So I think you have to keep learning. You can't stand still, as I said before, and as you said, Marcus, you've got to be nimble and continually just keep learning. I think it's the most important thing. And then look at what is it that I can learn. So your emotional intelligence, absolutely your resilience. So finding ways to adopt a growth mentality or a growth mindset so that you can actually reframe some of these challenges and difficulties that we're all facing and look for the opportunities in those. And that optimism bias is such an attractive thing to employers. When you come in there and you start reframing all of these challenges and all this competition and look for the opportunities in there, I mean, I think that's one of the best ways to sell yourself. So develop your resilience, develop your growth mindset, develop your emotional intelligence, and just stay connected. You just have to stay connected to people. There's no substitute for that, and be courageous enough to ask for feedback, which I think I said before, and develop those skills which aren't subject to being automated. So your communication skills, your problem solving skills, just keep learning, I think is the best advice that I can give. Cannon?
Okay, cool. We've got some questions that I thought we should have a look at. One's from Selena asking, even if you're skilled at something, the nature of the current environment forces you to get out of your comfort zone. It takes more than skills. A certain amount of bravado helps. Any thoughts on that?
Well, if you're really skilled, that bravado should be naturally in your blood, right? It's all about how good are you. If you're really that good and you're really skilled at something, then that should be the motivator to be able to provide opportunities for yourself, either independently or through a company.
Okay. Anybody else want to add to that?
No, I agree. Look, even if, I don't know, you could be, I'm trying to think of something that you could be really skilled at and, COVID might have affected you badly. But let's say even if you're a chef, right? And if you may not be a Michelin star chef, but you could be a really good chef and you could have your own little pop-up store selling something, whatever that you make, and really good at preparing. Yeah, COVID could have affected you because of lockdown, but there are, it goes back to the point that we were all discussing earlier about being nimble, right? So you could still cook, nobody's stopping you from that. And maybe now that we're in a post-COVID world, you can still do whatever you want to do, i.e. cooking, and make whatever dish you really feel like making, and still be able to deliver your dish. Maybe just not in a restaurant anymore, could be laid off, but you could be still cooking from home or baking from home. And just like, now that we live in a post-COVID world, the amount of home bakers that have spawned out of nowhere, it's crazy. And they make really, really good stuff. And a lot of them now on Instagram are just, like there's this, I can't remember the name of that Instagram handle brand, but it's a home baker. They make just burnt cheesecakes. That's it. And the minute they open up for orders, it's just one Instagram post and they're sold out for the next 2 months. And they sell out everything in less than a day for the next 2 months worth of orders. So yeah, I mean, if you give me an example, I can maybe find ways to provide you with better strategies of how one can sell yourself. But I find it difficult that to know that if you're really nimble and you're really good, it's very difficult to fail. Let's put it that way.
Would you do it for free? If you would do it for free, you're never going to have a problem.
Yeah.
I take a slightly different approach, Ken, and I think we know that there's around the world, there's material consumption's being substituted for experience. People want an experience. So I think you have to be great at something, and that goes to your point, William. You've got to be great at something. That's a threshold requirement. To get into the game, you need to be great. You can't be half good at something. But beyond that, the really successful organizations or people will be the ones that are able to translate that and create an experience for their customers, which is valued, you know, helping people to make sense of an increasingly complex world. That's about how you make other people feel. So it's using whatever it is, that technical area that you're great at, but then finding a way to use that technical skill to create an experience that's meaningful for someone else. And that's a whole different suite of skills that we all need to develop. You know, that's around empathy, that's around understanding, that's around connection, that's around asking questions and listening. And that's available to all of us to build those skills. But it's not going to be enough to simply be great at something. That's a threshold requirement. You've got to do it.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you also have to create an experience that someone actually finds valuable and is willing to pay for. And that's the challenge for all of us.
Okay. Yeah.
Hayden, I saw that little follow-up. Not everybody's extroverted, right? Can I comment on that one? I love that. Sure. Okay, totally correct.
So the question is, for those who may not have seen it, is not everyone is an extroverted type A personality. So what sort of advice would you offer to those who are not so outgoing? How would they pitch themselves? Yeah.
If you're starving and you're thirsty and you're in a desert, everybody becomes an extrovert. You become an extrovert really quick. You become an extrovert really quick when you're hungry. Where's the hunger? Where's the belief in yourself? Where is the fact that you want a certain lifestyle? And that lifestyle could be whatever it is. You don't have to be a billionaire. You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be a 10,000aire. What is the life that you want? Whatever you want, that's your life, right? So it's not about converting an introvert into an extrovert, but you can be shockingly, I'm actually an introvert, but you can't tell by this at all, but I really am. But the reason why I don't seem like an introvert at all right now is because I'm passionate about sales. I'm passionate about business. I'm passionate about tech. I'm passionate about getting messages out there. Whatever you're passionate about, you're not going to be introverted about. That's impossible. And if you are passionate about yourself, your skills, and your ability, you're not going to be introverted about it because you're going to want it to happen.
I mean, there's also probably strengths that you have as an introvert. I consider myself a hyper introvert. Again, I don't know if you can tell, you probably could, but you know, I am very introverted. And as a result, I find ways that's just unique to me of how I connect with other people. Like, you know, like I told you, you know, in my hiring process, I Google them. Just like, you know, if I were to get on a sales call, you know, I would find out as much information as I can in the company, because that's what introverts do. The same way of why I'm even talking on this panel right now, and I'm not doing it in the auditorium, is because I'm introverted. So I was just kidding about the last point, but I think there are a lot of key strengths that you have as an individual being an introvert. There are a lot of, like for me, I take comfort in just finding out about things of people, and then when I make the actual connection, whether it's face-to-face or over a call, it's a lot more authentic, because, you know, it shows that I'm willing to find out information about you, to have a conversation with you. And I think introverted people have, like I said, we have our own strengths. Like people who are a lot more extroverted, like my wife, for example, you know, she probably has, like, you know, a lot of relationships and friendships, but, you know, not all of them are as deep as you know, one would hope for it to be. Whereas as an introverted, you may not have wide enough connections, but you could really connect with people on a level that extroverts may not, and that puts you on an advantage as well. So I would say tap into your strengths. I gave you some examples of how I personally do it to myself, and I'm sure you will find your own ways as well.
But the question that it's on age, right? So how is ageism in relation to your industries? I mean, is it there? I mean, do you judge somebody by their age before even giving them an opportunity to try for something?
Yeah, it happens in my industry. Sadly, I mean, admittedly, I think this is, we are in the digital marketing industry. This requires people who operate within the digital marketing industry to be quick in understanding, how things work digitally. And I'm not proud of it, but there are many times that I've met with people who are from my industry and they talk about someone else who's maybe, it could be a new hire, it could be a client, it could be somebody that's really dabbling their feet into digital marketing. And they start making fun, like, why is he even in this line of work? And I feel this is something that hopefully will change in future, because everybody is still, trying to do their best. Everybody's still trying to be nimble. And I hope for the better of this world, people give everyone else a chance.
I think, Cannon, on this one, we all have an unconscious bias, so even though we try to regulate that and make sure that age doesn't come into it, we all have an unconscious bias. And I think education plays a big role in this. And what we know absolutely without a doubt is that 65% of the success of any business comes down to its people, how engaged, how aligned, how passionate they are about the organization's purpose, and how capable they are to deliver on the value promise of that business to the market. And what we also know is that diverse workforces are far more productive. So if you look at all the metrics in terms of productivity, profitability, revenue, those diverse organizations where there's many different people, age, races, whatever, different talents, they perform far better. They're far more innovative, but they're also far more resilient. So I think there's a real role for all of us to play in educating people and making sure they understand the huge benefits of having a diverse, including older people, working. But the reality of that question is, it's true. We all have an unconscious bias and we make judgments. We prejudge people based on age all the time. It's something we've got to get better at.
Yeah.
Our staff ranges from late 50s all the way down to 22. So we have and we're 80% female. So we're not as diverse as I would like. We need more men in the organization. I'm kidding. But we're talking diversity, right? No, it should be 50-50. And we have people from all over the world. I mean, we have 9 offices around the world. So we have offices in Africa, Europe, South America, US, and 6 offices in Asia Pacific. So we're all kind of we're naturally mixed anyway, in terms of age, in terms of ethnicity. I mean, the joke is every time you talk to a Cossack person, you're hearing a different accent. Then they talk to me and they're like, "Oh, you're just a regular American." I'm like, "Thanks, appreciate that." But that's, so when it comes
not sure that's a compliment.
In this era, I try to avoid it. I'm like, look, I live in Singapore though.
Dual citizenship.
I'm kind of trying to bounce, but I think that when it comes to the question specifically in terms of age, I think that there are advantages to every age bracket. You get the hunger and you get the naivete of your early 20s and mid 20s people. You get the polished but still highly energetic early 30s to mid 30s, right? You get the power of time, experience, and structure from the people in their 50s or in their late 40s. And it's up to the leaders and the owners of the business to be able to kind of organize that in a way that's effective. For instance, I mean, I own the business and I'm probably on the younger side within the age gradient if we were to look at the chart. But that's okay, because I go to the older people in the organization for advice on, this is out of my scope. I'm at this age. You probably know how this timing works. Where am I going? Right? So it takes a certain level of understanding how to use diversity as well, not just have it for the sake of it sounding good, right? You have to leverage it. You have to leverage culture. You have to leverage culture, gender, age. All that is what diversity really means, which is similar to what Dom was saying. Like, look, these are productive teams, but very, very rarely do companies talk about how to use diversity. Often they're just trying to check a box, like, oh, we have these things, and it's like, well, what does it mean? You know, why is that important, right?
You're dead right, William. If it's not leverage, then what you have is a bunch of difference, not diversity, just a whole bunch of different people. And unless you get the best out of them, it actually leads to dysfunction really quickly.
Okay, it's time. We've overshot by a bit.
That was so quick.
But that's a way.
We could have gone on for the rest
you
of
want
the
to come
day,
back for more, maybe. But gentlemen, thank you so much for all your inputs. I think for business owners as well as those trying to get in on new jobs, a lot of useful advice out there from three of you. And I think possibly what we need to do is just, as all of you have said, be agile, be nimble, be open-minded to a lot of things, and look for opportunities rather than all those walls that are popping up in front of you. The walls will always be there. You go over it, you go around it, you go through it, still you can find a way through.